We're going to talk about the wilderness. Have you heard about that place? Okay. Do you yet have an understanding of what wilderness is? So wilderness is probably the opposite of being able to get to things quickly. Wilderness is somewhere you'd rather not be, but you are there for a time. What else? How else can we define wilderness? The opposite of paradise. That's a good one. I like that one. I was reading. Let's see, slideshows. Is it in the back there? Okay. Is it there? Okay, it's there. You can just do that way. It's easier. Okay. So, what's the title? Not in the town or in the temple, but in the wilderness. That's an interesting title. Do you know why I got that thought in my head? Not in the town, not in the temple, but in the wilderness. I was reading to Ben from this cartoon Bible. It's this Bible with these comics, and we were going from the one story to the other story. The one story was Jesus in the temple, and he was like this bright child, and his parents forgot him. Do you know they solidly forgot him? Let's not lie to ourselves. They solidly forgot him, okay? Any parent that's ever lived has forgotten their child at one time, but Mary and Joseph, 3 days. So that's impressive. So they forgot Jesus. Let's not lie about that. They forgot Jesus, and he was in the temple, and whilst in the temple, in the house of his father, they were saying, he's so smart, and he knows all these things, and he's been asking us these really difficult questions. Okay. Mary says, oh, that's nice, we should go home. And you have this next part, but before you go to the next story, it has this little piece there. Kilometers far in the wilderness, another young man follows God's plan. He doesn't hear the voice of God in the temple. He hears it in the wilderness. I think that's a brilliant transition from Jesus in the temple, this perfect place, his father's house, and then you go over to the story of John the Baptist. Another young man, because remember, he's not much older than Jesus at that moment. How old is John when Jesus is 12? 13, 14? Max? And now we're giving a lot of leeway saying 14. Another young man in the wilderness crying out, prepare the way of the Lord. And that's interesting. The one's in this temple, and he hears his father. And it was a nice space to be at that current moment, because it was like holiday. Who's ever been to like a SCO? One of these nice, fierce, this heavy music festival, or whatever you want to call it. Do you know there's everything you can think of to eat? They have like things on sticks, things in boxes, things in bags. You can throw sauce over everything, chip and dip. What's this thing on a stick? That's a sausage on a stick with the coating over it. A Yankee. There's Yankees. There's hot dogs. You can get whatever you want. Slush puppies. That's a festival. And if you think about it clearly, that was the environment why Jesus was in Jerusalem. It was festival time. They had festival. So it was a place of opulence, a place of there's enough. There should have been enough if you think Jesus was there for 3 days. What did he eat? I think there was enough. Then you get this juxtaposition right next to it in this cartoon, this comic book. And there's another guy in the wilderness. There's not a lot of clothing stores for him. Has to wear like camel's hair clothing, probably very modern today. Camel hair clothing, and he eats locust. Who's ever eaten a bug? Not by accident, but on purpose. They're actually very crispy. So it's not that bad. It's just crispy. The worst thing is if you eat a live bug and the leg is sticking out of your mouth and still moving while you're eating it. So that's like the mental thing you have to get over, this leg moving here. So it's not nice. It's not something I would buy at a festival. They're not a top seller at any feast. Then he had to eat honey. And it doesn't matter how nice honey is, it's only that nice for that long. Then you get sick of it. So we get this garden picture of Jesus being in this place where he speaks to God and God speaks to him, like the Garden of Eden. And then just after that, you get this wilderness picture, the Israelites in the wilderness for 40 years, and there's not a lot of options. So last week we spoke that the wilderness is somewhere that breeds humility, that makes humility come out of us. You find that in the wilderness. The wilderness makes humility sprout out of you. I like the word sprout out, because it is somewhere inside there. It just needs to be nurtured. Now, another thing about the wilderness, we don't often like to say to each other, the wilderness is something else. The wilderness is something that removes options. So I'm giving you a disclaimer, this will be a difficult discussion from here on in. The wilderness removes options. Think about it in your life. The wilderness removes options. What happens when you have no options? It's easier to decide. If you have nothing in the fridge and you open the fridge and there's nothing, what's your option? You can go to the tap and drink water. Who's ever been there? There's nothing in the fridge to eat. You open the fridge and you know it's futile. You're just opening this fridge for your own mental capacity. You know there's nothing inside there. You can move the empty boxes away and still find nothing. And then you go to the tap when tap water was still safe. You go to the tap and you drink water. That fills your belly as well. When you have no options, it's easy. There's no options. But having no options is difficult as well. Who agrees with me? Having no options puts you in a very vulnerable space. Who knows it's extremely uncomfortable to have no options? You feel like life is deciding for me. People are making my choices and my decisions. I have no control over what happens next. All of those are true. So, let's start with a few examples. Long ago I read about this guy called George Quam. Weird guy. He played handball. Do you know what handball is? It's this silly game that kids play where you have like a tennis ball and you have like a line and you hit it to the person and he hits it back, and if you miss it, you lose a point. Okay? So it's as easy as that. Do you know it's like a national game in America? They have like national championships. All the best people who can hit a ball with their hand comes together and they have this competition. And early on there was a guy, and he's like a legend, an amazing legend. He played in the national championships. He played 156 matches in this one tour. He played 156 matches. Now, that your hand's probably not nice after that. So he played all these matches. He won 140. So that's kind of impressive. He did so well that year that he won the national championship. He was the best handball player in the whole country. So that's kind of impressive. America is a big place. There's a lot of people that does silly stuff. And he was the best in one silly sport, handball. Do you know what was interesting about the guy? He had one arm. He had one arm. And he did so well. He won the national championship. And in that year, Herbert Hoover was the president. I don't know who knows the presidents of America, so Hoovers are way back. But Herbert Hoover was the president. And he invited him to the White House. And upon inviting him to the White House, he said, congratulations, you're like this national star. Everyone's been talking about you on the radio, and you're like amazing. And he asked him, how are you so good at handball? I know it's singular handball, but how are you with one arm so good? And he said, when I hit the ball and it lands in the opponent's court, he has a decision to make. Will I hit it with my left hand, or will I hit it with my right hand? When that ball lands in my court, I have no decisions to make. I can only hit the ball. That's a good life lesson just there. The removing of options makes things clearer. But do you know, we do not like to remove all the options. We feel when we remove options, we make ourselves vulnerable. We put ourselves in a state that creates this vulnerability. Do you agree with me? Here's another one. There was a shoe salesman in America. I like the story. It's a business story. There's a shoe salesman in America, and he sold a lot of shoes. And they were so impressed with this one guy in the company, they started to send all their rookies to him to teach them how to sell shoes. And they asked him, how do you sell shoes? And he said, no, it's easy. Okay, so a woman comes off the street, and she said she likes to try on that pair. And he says, no problem, madam, please have a seat. And he brings the shoes to her. And she says, I saw another pair of shoes. He says, no problem, madam. And he brings them to her. And she looks at the shoes. And then she says, I saw another, because you know women and shoes. So this story is self-explanatory. She saw another pair of shoes. And she's like, I saw these shoes. And he said, no problem, man. Which one of these two boxes do you want me to put away? He said, this one thing he recognized, as soon as there's more than two boxes in front of a lady, she doesn't buy any shoes. But if there's only two boxes in front of her, only two choices to make, she buys the shoes. And this is a well-known psychological thing. A lot of options create something. We call it the choice paradox. You know what a paradox is? It's this when something is not the way you think it should be. When having a lot of choice, what happens? And this is interesting. They sum it up in the psychology books as there's this 5 things that happens with the paradox of choice. The first one is decision paralysis. Instead of deciding, what do? You postpone. Instead of deciding, you postpone. Another thing that happens with this choice paradox when having choice, too much choice, decision fatigue. After a while, it becomes too much to choose. Who's ever been in that place in their lives? Let's say it's dinner. What should I make for dinner? Oh, no, you decide. Then you are frustrated because you did not want to make a choice. Because you're tired. You've been making choices all day long, and you just want someone to say what you should do next because that's much easier. That's a household story. Just tell me what to do. Now, whatever you want to do. Now, we don't have whatever in the fridge. What do you want me to make you? Okay. The next one is reduced satisfaction. That was an interesting one. If you read up on it, as soon as there are too many choices, the one they choose no longer satisfies them. Because what did I miss out on all the other choices? That's an interesting thing. And it's funny. You think if I have a lot of choices, I'd be satisfied with getting the perfect thing. But you're so dissatisfied because so many alternate options. The fourth one, escalated expectations. Do you know when you have a lot of options, you put a lot of weight on the one thing that you have chosen because you want to find that perfect thing in the whole store. I want to find that perfect thing, the one thing that is specifically for me. And now there's so many options and you don't know what to choose. And at the end of the day, you choose something and then what happens? It just doesn't meet your expectations. It doesn't make you feel how you thought it would make you feel when you bought this. So all of a sudden, I think all of you can relate to what I'm saying. You've experienced this in life. You bought something, you think it would fill a hole, and it does not fill a hole. You know why? Because there's too many options. There's too many options. The last one I like, increased regret. Who's ever experienced regret when after purchasing something? There's a lot of things. You see it, you like it, you buy it, you regret buying it. And the more options, the more regret just steps in and just floors you. So let's go to a takeaway place. We go to a takeaway place. You have to buy something to eat. You come to that menu that's on the wall. Have you ever seen those menus? With like 1,001 things to eat. And if you're my wife, you'll read through every item on the menu. And then she has like a short list of 5 things she'd like to eat. And by that time, I'm no longer hungry anymore because now she goes through a menu like studying it, see all the spelling mistakes, or I don't know what she does on a menu, but she studies that menu. And then she has like this short list. And then she orders something. And I order something. And I can see the longing in her eyes for what I have ordered because she is dissatisfied with what she has ordered. And she asks me if she can have a bite of mine. Happens. True story. Now you're at this takeaway place, you see all these things. You think, I'd like this, I'd like that. And for the first time you eat it, it's nice. Who remembers the first time they ate McDonald's? This amazing, unattainable thing in Kimberley. You must go to somewhere else to get McDonald's because Kimberley doesn't have McDonald's. It was this amazing thing. It was an event. You would see people piling their children into the car. We're going to McDonald's. Very excited. Like this, we have a one-horse town. But who often gets dissatisfied with McDonald's? You get that chips. You wait like just 2 minutes. You just drive with that chips. It's waiting for you here. You drive and you stop at that robot. And as soon as you stop at the robot and you take one of the chips, it's already old. And it tastes like cardboard. Salted cardboard with a lot of oil on it. Vegetable oil cardboard, salty. Who's ever been there? Have you ever seen a McDonald's chip somewhere lost in a car? Pristine condition months later. Pristine condition months later. No mold, no ants, because ants know what's good for them. Perfect condition. Rats won't eat it. You'll never see a rat next to McDonald's. They know what's good for them. Do you know what? As soon as there's so much choice around us, we become dissatisfied with what we have. It's in our nature. It is in our nature. Who's ever eaten at home, you like your wife's cooking, you like your mother's cooking, you like the cooking at home, it's nice. Then you think to yourself, let's go to a restaurant. You go to the restaurant, you get the food at the restaurant, all these options, and you think, I like my wife's cooking more than this. I'd rather eat at home. It's too much choice. The same old is sometimes good for us. The thankfulness for what we have, sometimes we need to lose it. Do you know how I imagine the wilderness? Who's ever seen a vending machine? You know, a vending machine? They're amazing. They have all these options. You press a button and it spits it out. Falls at the bottom, you push your hand in, you get this wonderful thing you've been longing for. Okay. So we like options. You agree with me? How do you feel when you get to this machine and the one thing you wanted, you know, you have that taste in your mouth, you know what you want, that specific thing. You come to this vending machine and it does not have it, and you feel crestfallen. You know how I love the word crestfallen? So you're crestfallen about the last cream soda, it's not there. So now you choose something else. There's a lot of choices. You choose something else, but that's not what you wanted. So you just took something because there was choices. Who's ever been guilty of that? Coming to somewhere, not getting what you want, but taking something just because you are there. Okay? That's all human nature. I want you to think about that. That's all human nature. We sometimes arrive at a place and it's not what we want. But because we're there and there's so much choice, we take something. I want to highlight human nature. See this vending machine, we all know this one. Has all the nice things in it. These are all American stuff, but still. There's chocolates, M&Ms. I'd go for the M&Ms. And Steve would go for a Snickers bar. Yeah, Steve would go for a Snickers bar. I'd go for the Doritos if it was the purple one. So there's a lot of nice things. You can stand and choose there. But the wilderness looks like this. You have two choices in this thing. Do you agree with me? You can drink the water or not drink the water. And that's what the wilderness does to us. It takes away all the choices. All those extra things we thought we had control over, the things that made us feel we are still in control, the things that made us feel that we have some decision left in our lives and we're not these puppets controlled by circumstances. And then you get into a wilderness and there's absolutely no decision to make. You only get what there is. And that's tough. That's really tough. Do you agree with me? Even worse, sometimes you get into the wilderness and you get this machine. You're very thirsty. Look at this machine. Do you know what these are? Stationary. That's sometimes the wilderness as well. You are extremely thirsty. Sellotape, that looks like a permanent marker, colored pencils. I think over here we get staples. That's the wilderness as well. Agree with me? Sometimes there's nothing you want. And that's an interesting thing because I think we are too smart for our own good. We think we know what we need. Imagine if a tree had the faculties to make decisions. And a tree would think to himself, a truck was driving by. It was a massive interlinked truck, and it had this red banner on, and it had this wording on Coca-Cola. And this tree thinks to himself, it must be better than water. What would happen, and I ChatGPT'd this, what would happen if you only gave a tree Coke? Because it's liquid. Would it not grow? So there's acids in the Coke that starts to destroy the fibers of the roots. There's sugar in the Coke. Do you know that causes the tree to dehydrate? That causes humans to dehydrate as well. That's the thing about sugar. So this tree will be fed by millions of liters of Coca-Cola and still die. Thank God trees can't choose for themselves. Now I thought to myself in this thought experiment, let's try something healthy. Let's try orange juice. I mean, it comes from a tree, so it must be good for a tree. No, it is not good for a tree. The citric acid kills it. Just like the Coke, even though we think it's the more healthy option for us, it kills it. Now let's go more healthy than that. Milk. Let's only give this tree milk. What do you think will happen to this tree? This tree decides it's saw a cow, it must be better. Let's just have a lot of cows come pour their milk over here and I'll be the happiest tree on earth. You think that tree will grow? The fats will bind up on the roots and not allow it to get any water in. But you'll say to yourself, oh no, but it's full of calcium and calcium is good for trees. No, I totally agree with you. Calcium is good for trees, but not that much calcium. So we are very excited that trees do not have the faculties to decide with what they are watered with. God decides what they are watered with. He gives rain. Rain comes, tree grows. It says in Psalm 1, what it says, like a tree planted by water streams. So God said, do you know what's a good place for a tree? Next to water. Do you know why? Because trees need water. Do you know what we as humans do? We think we know better. We think we know better. Unlike this tree, we have the ability to drink Coke and milk and orange juice. But if the tree was left to its own devices and it could decide for himself, the tree would definitely die. The tree needs something external, all choices to be removed, for it to be safe. And that's the exact same thing we do. We think, if I could have this, it will grow me. If I could have this, it will satisfy me. And you know that's all a lie. We are so indoctrinated and influenced by the world and people around us, we think we know what we need. And that's why the wilderness is the exact best place to be. The wilderness removes these scales from our eyes where we think we know what's best for ourselves. Because you know what happens in the wilderness. You get faced with things. I like that story. We passed Samuel last Sunday, and I spoke about David running off into the wilderness. And in the wilderness, he finds this group of people who have all been shunned by Saul as well. They ran away from him. He was this horrible tyrant. So now they all are like-minded people in this wilderness. All of them, they could start this pity party thing. Do you know what Saul did to me? He stole my donkeys. Then someone pitches up from the back. Do you know what he did to me? He stole my donkeys and my dog. That's a country song. So this is this place where David could have fell into a trap and said, okay, this is my circumstances, and these are people like me. Like circumstance, not like-minded, like circumstance people. And I can agree with them. But that's the interesting thing of David. David did not agree with them. David constantly says funny little verses like, you satisfy my soul. Only one thing I desire, not retribution, not vengeance, but to dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. David handled wilderness very well. The wilderness did not shape David. David allowed the wilderness to show what was in him. There's a slight difference. To some people, the wilderness will shape their thinking. For some people, the wilderness will bring out what was already in them. Speaking about children, Cornay sent me this one quote, and I want to quote it properly. It's about children, and it's a C.S. Lewis one. It says, "Provocation does not make me ill-tempered. When my child provokes me because he does something naughty, it does not make me ill-tempered." It goes on to it. It only shows me how ill-tempered I am. That's a hard one. Provocation does not make me ill-tempered. It only shows how ill-tempered I am. When things irritate you, it's not because they are irritating, it's because that irritation is already in you. The wilderness just reveals. The wilderness just reveals. And that's brilliant. If you know there's something to work on, the wilderness has done what it should do. That's why it took 40 years. He needed to change slaves into warriors. It took a while. It took a while. There's a few beautiful verses. Let's try them on the screen as well. Isaiah 58 verse 11. It's beautiful, this one. It says, "And the Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your desire in scorched places and make your bones strong. And you shall be like a watered garden, like a spring of water whose waters do not fail." I like that one. The Lord shall satisfy you in scorched places. Okay. Let's have another one, a psalm. Let's start from that one, just because it's a beautiful part. 107 verse 4, Psalm 107 verse 4. "Some wander in desert waste, finding no way to a city to dwell in. Hungry and thirsty, their soul fainted within them. They cried to the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them from their distress. He led them by a straight path till they reached the city to dwell in. Let them thank the Lord for his steadfast love, for his wondrous works to the children of man. For he satisfies the longing of the soul, and the hungry soul he fills with good things." And I can't tell you how many Psalms and Old Testament verses there are where the prophets or the psalmist continually point you to this one thing: he satisfies. And now here's the hard part. You will never believe me that he satisfies as long as you have too many choices. As long as you allow too many choices in your life, he will never be able to satisfy you completely. What will you experience when you are not satisfied by him completely because of too many choices? You will experience the following: decision fatigue. You will be unable to choose what's the right next thing to do. Let's try another one. Increased regret. You'll be constantly walking around with all the regrets you have. I could have done this better. I could have done it like that. It doesn't sound like peace. You know, what's another one when he does not satisfy you completely? Escalated expectations. People around you seem to fail your expectations constantly. Because you expect people or things to be the ones or the situation that changes everything. Maybe this time, there's a song, I won't sing it. Maybe this time, things will be better. Maybe this time. As soon as there are too many decisions, he will not be able to satisfy you. That's a tough one. It's a really, really hard one, and it's supposed to poke you in the eye. It's not supposed to pat you on the back. You are feeling a lot of these emotions, and you are experiencing the pressure because he's not the one that satisfies you completely. You still have too many arms. If you only had one arm, you only had one choice. That's me.